Just to set some context, about 15 months back, I was holding a very similar conference. We had participants from the Indian Pharma, GCCs, all of that. And we were talking about, hey, what use cases can be done? Are there valid use cases that we can solve through GenAI in the commercial, in the manufacturing, uh, in the R&D, and all of that? Fast forward, I think at that point we had Rajiv there in that roundtable conference. We had Chenke as well, all of them there. Fast forward 15 months, I was talking to one of our customers. It's a pharma company. They have lost 33% of their revenue because of one of their brands has gone down. They are pivoting from one therapeutic area into another therapeutic area. They're very in the advanced stages of clinical trials, and they are looking to see how they can fast track this and take this product very quickly to the market. So that is requiring significant investments for the clinical trials. And on the other side, because of the revenue plunge, they have reported losses for the first time in their quarters. And in between this, they had to acquire another company in order to expand their manufacturing base. In such a scenario, the only option, at least they told me, was we have no other choice but to lead with AI. Everything that we want to do, our R&D work, they have invested in a company, just acquired it, so that they are able to accelerate their entire R&D work. They are investing in their entire similar kind of an AI to say, how can they transform their commercial team from one therapeutic area into another therapeutic area with AI. So where we were just exploring, can AI help in the use cases? We are in a model in 15 months where companies are thinking that, hey, I'm going to have an AI first business model. So with that context, I'll try to open the floor to all of you, gentlemen. Welcome to the stage. Looking forward for all your inputs on today's session. Rajiv, maybe I'll start with you, and if you can share. Do you see a clear change in business models that, hey, Lokesh, we are starting to see a change in the business pattern itself from the R&D, clinical, anywhere? Do you have any specific clear business KPIs that, hey, with the help of AI, Gen AI, we are able to see a change in this?
Thank you, Lokesh, and thanks to Agilisium team for having me here. And congratulations also to Agilisium for their 10th year anniversary. Raj put some lot of pressure on us by giving away free SUVs to his employees. So I'm not sure if we can match that, but anyway, great to be here, and thanks for that question, Lokesh. And as you said, I think 15 months ago we were just sort of, if you look at I make the same analogy as the Gartner hype cycle, right? We were at, let's say, the peak of inflated expectations. Now, I think we are probably at the early stage of plateau of productivity. And depending upon who you speak within the organization, some of them are in different maturity cycle. As you know, Regeneron is like the Apple of pharma, is the way we describe it, because we control all the way from research to clinical development to manufacturing to commercialization. So everything is like a well-oiled machine within Regeneron. So all of them are very tightly sort of optimized. So if I sort of go from, let's start from commercial business functions, and then I'll walk you through to research and discovery. So where we have seen, and I am part of this digital transformation organization. So from where we sit, we have seen a significant number of uptick in terms of applying especially generative AI capabilities on variety of different use cases. For example, in our commerce business group, we already have made progress in terms of how do we engage with HCPs? How do we create different, how do we create brand awareness comparing to industry branding benchmarks. We have also started gathering a lot of the conversations that the sales or the field force have with HCPs, and try to derive insights out of them, right? So there is a lot of use cases around commercial in terms of brand engagement, awareness, HCP engagement, and increasing patient experience. So we've seen a lot of maturity in that area. And as I sort of go back in that life cycle, clinical development is a huge space that we're seeing a lot of action, especially in terms of protocol designs and site activation, and also in terms of patient recruitment. So these are the three areas that we see a significant application of GenAI. And then on the production side, which is on the manufacturing side, one big use case that we have right now is around what we call deviation management, which is the drug coming out at the right efficacy and at the right configuration that it's supposed to. So we have the Gen AI models that can summarize these SOPs and understand if there are deviation in those batch production processes within that manufacturing cycle. So I can go on and on, but there are like multiple areas that we have seen an uptick in terms of the interest. Some are in prototyping stage, some are in production stage. But again, based on the different business function, the maturity level is very different. That makes sense.
Fantastic. Thank you, Raju. So, I mean, like you're saying that, hey, Lokesh, it is no more just one function. It is kind of spread across the board, and it's just more and more number of use cases. Thank you. So Chanki, from here, maybe I'll just ask from you, because you're speaking to several companies. Is Regeneron kind of ahead of the curve, and or others are, or like this is an industry phenomena? What's the market trends, maturities on the same lines of business getting redefined through AI itself?
Yeah, I think I would say this is pretty much the norm, right? So, Lokesh, you mentioned 18 months ago we were talking about what are the potential use cases. And you just heard a bunch of use cases which are either already in pilot or some have also moved to production, right? So, and again, the conversation that I have with pharma companies have also changed. 18 months ago, they were about, hey, which use cases we can do. Now everyone would have a list of 200, 300 use cases that they can do, right? I don't think there's any shortage of use cases. And I think the way I see it is there are a few things that I'm noticing. So one is, even if we take a step back, right? If we think about impact of AI, one of the fundamental things that I see is AI is now being looked as an asset. So similar to drug molecules, AI is also becoming an intellectual property. And you would see every pharma developing their own algorithms. There are a bunch of initiatives around data, around AI, right? And so they're not just competing on molecules, they're also competing on AI. And again, if you just heard, right, the number of use cases, the potential it has to significantly reduce the time it takes the industry to bring a drug to market, the potential is absolutely huge. At the same time, what I'm also noticing is that enterprise maturity with AI is also something which is increasing. So even 5-6 years back, every pharma company had a AI strategy. What separated the leaders from the laggards was execution of that strategy. So what that means is initiatives that allow pharma companies to get to that vision, right? And that is something that which I've seen change. You see, one of the changes you would have seen in the last 18-24 months is now AI has become a CEO mandate. You would see CEOs talk about AI. They have much more closer visibility to execution of this, and I think that's one of the main reasons that execution has improved. And at the same time, you would also see pharma companies investing in AI, right? So whether that's use cases, whether that's internal initiatives that I mentioned, innovation labs, data science labs. So I think there's been a significant increase in maturity. And while as an industry we have I think traditionally we've been classified as laggards when it comes to technology. But again, if you look at the wave of AI, Gen AI, and agentic AI implementation, while we are not the topmost industry, I think, but we've gone a long way in shedding the laggard image in terms of adoption of technology.
Thank you, Chanki. But that brings me to an interesting question. I mean, like you kind of mentioned that, hey, pharmaceutical industry is considered to be as a laggards, but in this case, you're not seeing this as just a one-off thing. You are seeing this as an industry phenomena itself. But two questions come to mind. I mean, like immediately, right? Has the regulatory teams have been able to catch up with this, or is that a lag? I mean, like, are the regulatory bodies in line with that? And second is, pharma companies cannot afford, at least several of my customers, the conversation has been, Lokesh, don't tell me it is 97%, don't tell me it is 98%, it has to be bang there, 100%, if it's not, take it back. So what do you see about that, the hallucination aspects, those aspects, and the regulatory bodies on that?
Yeah, so I think hallucination risks are clearly one of the biggest concerns that any pharma CXO or any pharma leader would have. So to your question about regulators, I think while in the last 4 or 5 years, we've seen a lot of progress in regulators acknowledging the role that AI has to play in the industry. But there's still a lot of lack of clarity because of lack of guidelines, right? So I think the way I think about it, like we have good lab practices, good clinical practices, good manufacturing practices, we need good AI practices. And what I see pharma companies do is take a lot of principles from these different GXP mandates, so which could mean making sure that risk management is embedded early into the process of AI lifecycle development, setting up cross-functional review committees whose mandate is AI ethics, making sure that the AI algorithms and technologies are audited, right? So using a lot of methodologies that we've already seen in the GXPs. At the same time, again, particularly I think in the era of agentic AI, the kind of industry we are in, and you mentioned, right, even 97%, 99% is not good enough. So I think at least for the near to medium term, we'll always have human in the loop, right? So we'll have AI or agentic AI assisting humans. And what pharma companies need to do is develop clear guidelines on what are the roles and responsibilities, not just for individuals, but also for autonomy. So what decisions are automated, uh, who uh, who then makes the final decision, what are the risks if this goes wrong. So yeah, I think there's a lot of progress. I think there's recognition that as an industry we need to adopt AI, but obviously we don't have clear guidelines, and in an industry which has a direct impact on patient health and patient safety, there's, from a pharma side, there's going to be obviously a little bit conservatism, but I see a lot of green shoots in how the industry is addressing it, and particularly while they would wait for more clarity from regulators, I see a lot of positive movements in how the industry has started to adopt it and started to experiment it in some of the lower risk areas.
Fantastic. Thank you, Janki. This helps. So maybe with this, maybe I'll ask Praveen to comment. Praveen, if you can add, as you're part of the NASCOM, and I'm sure you're interacting with several Indian pharma companies and GCCs, do you see any kind of governance, framework, standardizations, which can, because every pharma company now wants to accelerate this, but what is holding them back is, can they keep pace with this regulatory aspects, hallucination aspects? Do you have some kind of inputs on any governance framework, best practices?
Sure. Thanks for asking. And I think what Chunky mentioned completely aligned. So obviously human in the loop, these are things that are important. And these core tenets of responsible AI, as we call it, these have been deemed necessary, but just that as regulators, and I'm not just talking pharma, I'm just talking broad industry and the industry that we have in India, as policymakers, it's very clear they didn't want to have an additional regulation for AI. I think it was also to sort of understand how this whole space evolves. So there is, at least from a policymaker's lens, there's Bharat Nyaya Samhita, the modern version of the IPC. There's the Intermediary Act, and we have the DPDP. So these are the trifecta of sorts which the policymakers think is sufficient. I think they are not in any rush in some ways to come up with a new AI policy, and we see a lot of these policies come up globally. But I think India is not rushing that. But in the absence of policy, it can also sort of create and engender a situation wherein there is a negative consequence that sort of comes through, and that can lead into some kind of a whiplash effect, and there could be some draconian law that could stifle innovation. We don't want that as an industry body, and hence back in 23 we realized the need for us to sort of have some kind of guiding principles, or some kind of tools that are available for the industry at large, which could serve as a guidance in terms of how could companies, or for that matter individuals, developers, architects, building these AI solutions and also potentially deploying these solutions, as to how they could assess where they are. So there should be some kind of a baseline assessment. So a maturity assessment toolkit was launched, and the idea was, as an individual, as an organization, I'm subject to a questionnaire, and basis that questionnaire, I will know where I stand when it comes to these practices. Now, what that will eventually lead into, one, awareness, and especially, I mean, it's, of course, like what Chunky was also talking about, the sector is so critical, and it also goes similar when it comes to anything heavy on data. Banking and financial services is also an adjacent sector when it comes to this particular topic. It's important that the developers building AI solutions are cognizant of the risks that are underlying, and also are aware of the fact that these are things that they need to be addressing, and that cannot happen unless that baseline is existing. So that assessment toolkit was basically for that. Even from a developer perspective, now, responsible AI, ethical AI, as much as we'd like to say is important, it is very abstract for a lot of people. How do I really go about building these solutions is something which we tend to see from the larger developer community, and hence we undertook a consultation last year, and this is again at large, nothing specific to an industry. And basis that consultation, a playbook was launched, and this playbook, again, all of this is public material, everybody in the industry can refer to this, and the idea is to be able to use these at a developer level, in order, because those are the ones at the heart building these, and to be able to understand what transparency is, what biases that they might be working with in terms of data or in terms of processes. These are some of the important things that they need to be able to understand, while at a board level, or at a senior management level, we tend to sort of think that these are given, but at a developer level, I don't think it's a given. They don't understand it necessarily. So I think setting that stage was extremely critical, and to be able to instill that understanding of how these principles can potentially impact a larger citizen scale deployment, and this can happen both at the public sector as well as in the private sector. So we're working on both fronts, but clearly there's a lot of maturity that is coming through, and I think anybody who understands the kind of implication that they will have by not incorporating some of these practices, they realize that this is perhaps they will get into that laggards scenario, because I don't think business will be done with such organizations or individuals. So I think we are trying to espouse this philosophy as much as possible, but then until the time there is a regulation, these are some of the core frameworks, and then even governance mechanisms, audits like Chunky was also talking about. Those are things which are captured in some of these guidance that NASSCOM has been providing. But I mean, I think in at least the leaders are following this. I don't think if you look at a normal distribution, a lot of them are not following some of these core principles, and we'd want more of these organizations and individuals to follow.
Fantastic. Thank you, Praveen. So maybe we look forward to collaborate with you to take some of this, standardize this, and share with our wider audience, both in here and US, to say, hey, these are some standard practices across the board, right from the boardroom to the CEO, to the developer, assessment frameworks, and all of that. Sure. Thank you. Thank you. I think with this round of discussion, at least we are able to assess that, hey, clearly, whether there is an opportunity, we are now moved into a place where definitely Pharma is clearly seeing AI as part of their strategy, business itself, and part of that. I'll just move the conversation to the second phase. And maybe again, Rajiv, I'll start with you because you are in the industry. How are you thinking about scaling this, or you already started efforts towards scaling this? And have you got anything to share in terms of what has worked well to scale and what has not worked. For example, are you able to streamline something across the value chain, or no, we are just keeping it siloed? Platforms, anything that you think that, hey, these are fundamental things. We just can't have so much mushroom effect across the place, but bringing it all together. So any thoughts on that?
So I think for me, anything for you to scale, you have to decentralize it. You have to democratize it. Otherwise, I don't see that happening. Whether we even before the whole Gen AI era, if you look at how we wanted to be a data-driven company, and then we wanted to be a digital-first company. Now we are talking about we want to be an AI-first company. But if you look at the fundamental building block to any of this is the aspect of decentralization, is the aspect of democratization of tools. So you don't want, and there is this famous thing saying where AI is not going to replace humans, but humans are going to be replaced by humans who use AI, right? So from that perspective, we want that to be sort of omnipresent across the organization. We don't want that to be like sort of centralized. So for us, scaling is about upskilling those individual functions to be able to use the technology in a way that can lead to the outcome that they're trying to drive within those individual business groups. So to that extent, what we have done is, at least I can speak about what we do within digital transformation, is we have set up what we call an ask region platform. And it's much more than an ask, but it's just how people would sort of latch on to that in terms of the name. But it's much more than a platform. So what we as a team does is we enable lot of these new models that keep coming on pretty much on a day-to-day basis these days. Models have started to compete in terms of performance, in terms of the veracity of what it can do. So what we are trying to do is make these models enabled for the organization through a centralized platform. And in the process of doing that, we have enough governance and controls and processes that we have defined in terms of how we want these models to be sort of exposed within these different groups within the organization, right? We have a global what I call the AI ethics committee. We have the global I should say AI community of practice, and in the AI community of practice, we have the ethics committee, we have the regulatory committee, we have the technology committee, and so on. So now it's started to shape. If I look back a year ago and to where we are today, I think that that cross-functional team has matured, and everybody knows what and how they contribute to this whole ecosystem. In terms of scaling function, but there are definitely challenges. And for me, the biggest challenge is at the end of the day, our CFOs ask, okay, so what, right? So it's always a so what question, right? It's no longer a technology investment. Or here is yet another fancy model out there that can do these things. It is about now the question has moved from, hey, can we try this out, to what I go back to what Raj said in his keynote speak, which is how can the business start using them. So that's where we are in terms of our scaling and in terms of those challenges that we face.
Thank you. Thank you. Raju, actually, it was very interesting when we were having conversations with you last year, when you were already starting to build a marketplace, keeping all of this in mind. I mean, like at that point, I was debating a lot with you to understand, hey, do you really need something like this? But I can see how something like that could be significantly valuable as you are going to scale your AI across. Sandeep, we haven't come to you, but maybe here you can help us as these organizations want to scale, and obviously companies like you who provide this platform, what are you thinking and how are you planning to kind of say that, hey, you will support a pharma, any company to say, hey, you can scale your AI quickly through some of the efforts that you're putting?
Sure. Can you hear me? Yeah. See, I think cloud is now at the forefront of innovation, especially when you're talking about AI, right? Because the fundamental building block for AI is your data. And one of the challenges that all industries, and more specifically even life sciences and pharma industries, is the data silos that exist because of generations of data that we've collected, right? So I think cloud is definitely at the forefront of ensuring that you are provided a scalable infrastructure. So when we look at how do we support partners, customers, and everybody else in their AI journey, we are thinking about, can we provide an infrastructure that's scalable, which is addressing huge amounts of data that you have collected and bringing all of that together. We are also looking at it from a perspective of, can we provide you cost-effective infrastructure which can run Gen AI models or complex AI workloads at scale, right? So we're looking at those two aspects primarily. Now, if you talk about pharma as an industry, most of the 9 of the top 10 customers are working or running their GenAI workloads on AWS. And what are some reasons for which they're doing this? One is access to different models of data, models that's available in the market. So when we started our AI strategy, we approached it slightly differently compared to other organizations, right? Our idea was, can we provide the access to options to customers throughout the AI journey? Because AI journey, again, it's changing on a daily basis. You never know when a new model comes into the market and suddenly disrupts the thinking of organizations, right? Like what DeepSeek did at the start of the year, where everybody's like, oh, this is a different way to look at generative AI and AI models and things like that. So our approach was always that customer needs to have a choice, because it's the starting of a journey and you never know who's catching up with innovation. So you need to give customers the flexibility to be able to swap models or change models based on their use case and need at that given point of time. That's where Bedrock comes in, which has access to multiple different models, including our own models, right? So we've partnered with different organizations like Anthropic, Stability.ai, and all of these people, and their models are all available on our platform. So we're making sure that customer has access to choice. That's one. The second aspect why people are working with us in their AI, customers are working with us in our AI journey is, purpose-built services, right? So we've always worked backwards from customer. One of our, we have what we call as leadership principles, and every employee and everyone thinks from a leadership principle standpoint. One of our core leadership principles is customer obsession. And what it means is we work backwards from what the customer wants or needs, but also being close to the customer and understanding what could be their needs, right? And what we have done is, because of that, we've come up with services very specific to the healthcare industry, things like Health Lake and Healthnomics, all of these services which are very industry relevant. And while that is one aspect, we also realized, I think sometime 2 years back, that there is a lot of collaboration that industries, especially pharma, goes through. And can we provide a way in which you can securely share data with third-party people where you're collaborating without any exposure to security labs, right? So we've come up with data zones and clean rooms, some services with which you can easily collaborate. So this is another reason why people have been working with us.
I mean, like recently, I was just interacting with one of the stakeholders here. They were also having the same concerns in terms of, hey, what does it take? So if any best practices here?
Yeah, so I think he kind of alluded to cloud being clearly the important attribute from a scale perspective. We see a lot of organizations moving there already, and he also is given some statistics. We also see smaller organizations starting to move cloud first, AI native in terms of their approach. But I think with the rapidly growing technology scenarios that we have, we see a lot of demand for talent. And hence talent can be externally resourced but also can be internally upskilled. I think some of the best practices we've seen is a lot of upskilling that is happening simply because there's so much demand that is there for talent, and those organizations that have spent and invested in upskilling, reskilling have really seen a lot of returns on that strategy over the past 18 to 24 months vis-a-vis those that haven't. I think that is perhaps one of the only things which I've seen work from a scale perspective that aligns very well with the AI first strategy. There have been various other approaches from the point of view of integrating or sort of moving from legacy systems to AI first and the cloud first systems. But again, the issue of data silos is what we see. Even from that perspective, sort of having a data cloud, data pipelines being built and sort of investing in having that piece covered, those are also organizations that are starting to realize and reap those benefits of what AI can bring to the table. So I think those are some of the things that we've been seeing. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are more, but these are prominent, at least from our perspective.
Fantastic. Thank you. Good point. I think when we were talking about deployment and scaling up, we were more looking at from an infrastructure perspective. Praveen, you have brought the perspective of talent, and now that we understand that there's a significant opportunity and we are looking from deployment perspective, Rajiv, maybe I'll switch the question to you to say, I don't think organizations are just wanting to good enough to say, hey, okay, I want to have a generative AI business process or all of that. What will it take for a company to become a truly AI first company? You mentioned that at the first, that hey, we are looking to become an AI first company. If a company has to call itself as an AI first or an AI native company, what do you think, I mean, like an organization should start working on or putting to that?
Well, I never said we want to be an AI first company, but what I said was the pattern in which the industry is probably shaping up. It was data first, digital first, AI first. We keep putting these labels on enterprises, but I think we, at the end of the day, we are a very much a value-driven organization. For us, the number one problem, so is with any pharma companies for that matter, is to reduce the time to get a drug out to the market. That's it. That's period, right, for us. So anything that enables us to cut or make a dent in that entire workflow, which today is 10 to 12 years, I think that's a big win for us. So for us, and I think the panelists spoke about regulatory and various other things. I think we are very conscious. So if I were to like bucket on a very high level, how we think about doing things in Regeneron, it's either doing science or supporting science, right? So either you are in either of these two business as an organization, and every employees are either doing either one of them, right? So our use cases right now is more on the supporting science side of the use cases. We've not seen GenAI penetrate deep into core research yet. We may eventually, but a lot of what we see innovations that we are doing within the organization is in the area of supporting science, and by that what I mean is to reduce that. Help reduce that cycle time from research to commercialization of drugs, right? So you asked me what should or I think being AI native, I don't think that's a choice anymore. To be honest, everybody, again, as I said, you are going to get replaced by somebody who knows to use AI to improve their work or bring productivity to what they do. AI is definitely inevitable from that perspective in terms of augmenting your own creativity to help do your job better. And I think the number one challenge is change management, at least for a company like ourselves. The other challenge is upskilling. How do you? I mean, right now, right, at least in the area of my purview, we have significantly reduced time to delivery in terms of new capabilities and new products or new software products, for that example, or new features within the product by using GenAI. We have significantly reduced prototyping efforts. We can go from concept to a prototype, what used to take 3 to 6 months, within few weeks, we can get something out there for people to critique on. So the developer community, I think, is much more matured in terms of how they are seeing AI help improve their productivity than the business users at this point. And I think what we have to do is to make sure that everybody understands that for how this can actually be omnipresent for every groups within the organization. I think it's happening. I think from that perspective, we can call it AI first, but for me, it is being AI as a core skill set, no matter what job function you perform within the organization. So it becomes a skill set more than anything first, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Thank you, Rajiv. I mean, like, that helps to see how, I mean, like, sorry for correcting that part of it. But yeah, I meant AI native. Chunky, anything, I mean, I'm sure you're meeting a lot of people, and if you can, everybody's making investments into AI, all kinds of companies. And if you can share some kind of a perspective to all of us to say, hey, where are the pharma companies investing? Where are companies like AWS or other companies like Salesforce, Viva investing? And then companies like us, Service Price, we are all investing in. And if you can share that, that could be of value to.
Sure. So I think there are largely four areas where, again, whether that's a pharma company, whether that's a tech provider, service provider, right? There are four main areas where people are investing. So one is data initiatives, because again, the number one barrier to scale AI initiatives is poor quality data, right? So that's the number one area. And again, even if you look at technology providers, right, that's one of their biggest focus. That how can you break the silos that exist in the industry? I mean, I think just clinical development, safety, regulatory alone, a typical pharma company would be using more than 100 different applications, right? So just think about how siloed the industry is. So data is first. The second is around governance, right? I think we've already talked about the importance of it. So that's another big focus areas, and because that's also, other than data, that's a big barrier in scaling a lot of AI initiatives. The third one is, I think, more around technology, or what I would call AI infrastructure. I think that's the third category which a lot of organizations are investing in. And so, for instance, how do you build MLOps discipline in an organization? And I think last, which Rajiv also touched upon, was is around people. So at the end of the day, it is people who are going to use these technologies, right? So what does that mean in terms of future of skills? Clearly, that is something that will change, right? So future of skills for individuals, very soon future of skills even for agents, right? So I think that's a big area. And related to that is also change management. Again, I think one of the things which you would see with any technology is that the pace at which technology matures is much faster than the rate at which it gets adopted by an enterprise, right? So I would say those are the four main areas where I see investments.
Thanks, Chinky. Maybe Sandeep, to you, this is a different question. It's a kind of a curveball question to you. While so many people are trying to become AI native company, and Chinky is talking about all these investments, anything that you are internally observing within AWS to avoid a kind of AI fatigue? For example, today we have some scenarios where some of our supervisors, bosses don't like to see the regular emails. They want us to send emails only via ChatGPT, saying that, hey, have you done that? So if you were to avoid an AI kind of a fatigue in an organization, anything that you have observed in your company that you're trying to balance it?
Yeah, I think one of the things that, hello? Yeah, one of the things that I think I've noticed is that with AI, there's so much change that keeps coming up every now and then. There's a new trend that keeps following, and everybody falls into the pitfall of going after these new trends, right? Uh, the idea and what we've been advising our customers and partners is, number one, your AI strategy or whatever you want to do with AI has to be aligned with your business strategy. It can't be a standalone thing saying, hey, today somebody's spoken about DeepSeek, let me go and run some investigation into that or experiments into that. It has to come from a point of view as to uh, is it built into my strategy, where is it built into my business model as such. If it's not, then it's not worth pursuing. So it's very important that you filter the noise versus what you really want to deliver for your customers at the end of the day. That's very important, because the fatigue that you're talking about comes from that. When your developers and your team start running behind everything and they're not very clear about what exactly you're trying to deliver. And that is something that we are noticing with customers. And we've been telling them to be razor focused around that. Second thing, like Chunky was talking about, he spoke about the 4 key aspects, right? Pillars: uh, data, people, governance, and technology. Uh, Data is very important. Like, we've had customers and even partners come to us saying, hey, you know what, this customer wants to build this application. And a lot of times, prior to joining AWS, I used to run the data and analytics practice for Cognizant. So I've worked with pharma customers, and a lot of times your ML or AI projects fail because of poor data, not because of poor development of application, right? Because the data is not right. So again, that's something that we've been telling customers: focus on getting your data right before you think about your AI strategy. Because a lot of times AI comes first before the data. And if you're not able to get your entire data, and trust me, the AI strategy is going to fail. Uh, Second thing, people, again, a lot of people think about upskilling. My point is, you need to start thinking about partnerships. There are enough and more companies like Agilisium and everybody else who build skills. And it's very important that we start thinking about leveraging the ecosystem that's available around us, right? Uh, Across the globe, we've got 140,000 plus partners. And within those partners also, we've come up with things like competencies, which defines whether a particular partner has a specific skill in a particular area. For example, Agilisium is a life sciences competency partner. Across the globe, I think if you count the number of life sciences competency partners, it'll be a handful, about 15, 20, maybe at most, right? So when it comes to people, yes, focus on upskilling, but very important to leverage the ecosystem that you have in terms of partners and everybody else, right? Third thing, technology, right? A lot of people um, still hesitate to make that brave change of moving into the cloud. There's still some applications they don't move for various reasons. And I think for today's day and age, we need to be brave, especially companies that have been in the industry for a long time, to make that step forward. If not, you will be disrupted by a new company which is coming cloud first. So very important to look at all of these aspects and ensure that your overall strategy aligns with your AI strategy, and that way you're going after a goal and not based on the hype and trends that you're hearing in the market.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Sandeep. I'll take advantage of the audience that's out here, and thank you for all your valuable inputs, but I look forward to hear something from the audience as well.
One element that we were looking at was sales forecasting. Right. I think we've got different across countries, across different markets, the different elements that play in. So in fact, we're looking at, because we actually are a company that have a lot of solutions, containers, bags, and all of that. So that's one area we were actually deploying it, and in fact, one of our business partners are trying to leverage it now to predict the next quarters. Where should we go? So that's one area that's really helping us out.
Fantastic. Thank you, Anil.
It is not related to pharma, it is agrochemical industry and seeds, hybrid seeds. To bring any new hybrid, it takes 9 years time. But because of AI, the breeder has to do so many permutation combinations, what kind of hybrid will come, it will take a lot of time. With use of AI, you can able to save 2 years. And the probability of success you can able to predict as early as possible. And one more thing we are using in a normal sales operations, forecast and inventory, these are all big problems to the industry, right? Any industry. You need to manage this forecast versus the inventory. So if you can able to give the AI help to give the more accurate requirement, then you can able to manage a lot of inventory cost. So these are two things I want to share.
Fantastic.
Gene and cell therapy, can we design that from design to deliver?
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that a question to me?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll share what limited knowledge I have, and I have some experts. I'll request them to add. I don't think we have got to the place where we are leveraging, at least from our Agilisium's experience, but we are definitely helping one of our cell and gene therapy customer to see how they can orchestrate their process much better. Like, hey, whatever is happening, once the sample comes in, hey, is there a better way we can do this? Patient scheduling, we are trying to look at this entire aspect to say how we can do the patient scheduling. But maybe Malini, if you have...
No, I do understand that case studies you have, but the only thing, the design part, because we have to mitigate that cytokine release. So because the post therapy, we do have an kind of issues. We try to avoid that.
Fantastic. Got it, Sajay. I think I just didn't study that much science. I'm going to request Malini to help me out here. Malini, if you can answer that part of it.
So I think it's more of a property sort of thing that you'll have to look at for building out the transgene and seeing if you'll have a less impact on the cytokine release, if that was the question, right? So I think it's more of a prediction problem that I would look at to solve it. So I'll definitely be happy to connect with you if we are able to understand what specific transgene that you're creating. For me, it's more of a machine learning problem that I would use to solve this particular use case that you're talking about.
Just sharing one interesting use case. It hasn't been quantified yet, so I won't say that it has brought in significant impact yet. But I think the idea has been pretty cool. So like pharma industry in the US especially, you do deal with health insurance quite a bit, right? So what we have been trying to do is understand the medical policies which used to happen quite manually in the past, and see how it impacts the uptake of your product. So now we are kind of moving to the GenAI here to understand whether those policies are actually favorable to you or not. And if those are not, then what is that specific aspect of the policy you can potentially influence to get it in your favor? And this would eventually translate into the revenue gain, because you would reduce the entry barrier or the barrier from the insurance companies. So that is just something interesting we have done recently from a different angle in a different area. So just sharing that part.
You talked about, Rajiv, how some of the GenAI adoption has been more on the business side and less on the scientific side. Our experience has been, to share the good news, is that, at least after the Nobel Prizes last year, with Hinton and Jumper winning the Nobel Prizes for AI, what we're definitely seeing is tremendous appetite on the scientific side to adopt AI. What we're also seeing is, especially in the US, the confluence of science and technology. Broad Institute, which is a joint venture between Harvard Medical School and MIT, is leading the charge there. And similarly in Stanford. In India, we need to do similar things. I would love to see how we can create the right kind of ecosystem where the scientists and the tech. So Lokesh joked just now that science is not necessarily where he has spent his time, but he spent his time on tech side. We need to come together. And I think the bilingualism that's necessary because it's a fantastic opportunity, especially for all of us from tech to contribute to science. I think that's the seeding the ecosystem, working together, that's something that we should focus on.
We actually developed a medicine supply map. In short, we call it as MSM. And that was done after using, say, millions of data points, using, of course, GenAI. So to predict the shortages in the next, say, few years, which drugs could be in short supply, and based on that, the companies can be ready with their alternative plans if they need to go to some other manufacturer, or from where the KSMs or the key starting materials or the raw materials or the APIs are coming. Combining all that, there was a predictive ability of that tool to predict the shortages of drugs in several therapeutics area, but mainly oncology, and that's all on the upstream side. The other thing which I wanted to share is that I think we talked a lot about regulation. Good AI practices, I know one of the panelists has mentioned that. So I would like to say that we work very closely with US FDA, and they have gone a step ahead in already issuing a guidance on what kind of AI tools you can use across the drug development cycle. So regulators actually are very much, I would say, ahead, and also want to learn. So they are encouraging, if you want to use few tools at several stages of your drug development or discovery, or anywhere else for that matter, preclinical, clinical development, post-marketing or manufacturing, then it's better to talk to them in advance and say that this is what we have developed and this is what we will use. This is the outcome what we are expecting, and this is how the tool works. Because their guidance talks mainly and relies solely on the context of use. So based on your COU, the context of use, and your outcome, what you are expecting, so regulators would be more than welcome to talk to you about whether you can use it or not, or what kind of pros and cons are there. So that's just what I wanted to share.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks a ton. That hey, if you want to reduce the amount of resistance to change, do more of awareness, do more of knowledge sharing. Once people get skilled or aware of that, there'll be less resistance. And probably that applies to pharma as well, that hey, we'll have to start working more with the regulators, making them aware as what we are trying as use cases, and they are more aware of it. There will be less resistance. So thank you for sharing that. With that, probably I'll try to put just one last rapid question to all the panelists here. If you can just say one thing that, hey, this is what you want to share as your inputs to your people here, colleagues here or from the industry, that what that would be from a life sciences AI perspective. Keeping a long-term AI strategy in mind.
I'd say keep at it.
Well, I was about to say that. I think the other thing, I also mentioned this previously, right? I think focusing on how you develop an organization which creates a culture where people are not afraid and people are encouraged to experiment, how you think about skill development. I think that is something that would be important. So that it's not just the technology that matures, it's also the adoption that increases.
I think we touched upon this a little bit, right? So the journey is going to be long. It's not a short-term thing. It's not that tomorrow you will get something done, right? So we need to start from the basics, right? Get your data right. Start with the foundations. Ensure that your people are skilled. Focus on integrating your AI strategy with your overall business strategy and business model. And if you're not on AWS, do look at AWS.
Yeah, no, thank you. So I think all of whatever has been said is very important. I think what I would strongly recommend is that resolve. Resolve is very important. The conviction to follow through the strategy is extremely important. Oftentimes, and again to your also point, that there are short-term plans and the willingness to get tempted into doing something which is not a part of your core strategy. I think staying true to that original plan in terms of your competitive positioning, I think, and how you potentially will integrate AI and some of the many things that we've spoken about, but then staying true to that and having that strong conviction to follow through. I think that is what I would recommend to everyone.
Fantastic. Thank you. Anybody from the audience who would want to just wrap it up, any other input that they would like to share? I know that my earlier question was related to a specific use case. But any other input that you have from an AI perspective that you would like to share with the audience here? Okay.
Actually, I have something for you guys. So I think it's about time you move from software as a service to a service as a software. And that's extremely important for especially folks like Agilisium. So I'll leave it at that.
Fantastic. AI was always there, and it was the language part that was missing. And as the LLMs have come in, AI has come truly in prominence. But I think one beautiful, I think in the conversation, I don't know who said that hey, AI did not have a reason for itself, saying that, hey, there was no reason. The humans have a reason to do something. We were just passing. I think, Anil, you were sharing that. It was beautiful insight. And I think with the agentic AI coming in, we are starting to give reasons to AI itself, saying, this is the problem I want you to solve. This is the reason you have to exist. And with that, I'm sure we will probably take AI to the next level itself. So thank you all for this patient participation, and hope this session was valuable. Thank you, panel. Truly appreciate it.